We're live.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Delta Phi episode number something. It's been a while. We've been doing a lot of these, and I think they're going quite well. Quick announcement, guys: Dan and Rob are not going to be here, so it does appear that you will be staring at their beautiful mugs. We have those little cardboard cutouts. Basically, we got some of those in the studio. We've placed them behind the desk, so you guys, can just be graced by their presence, even though they're not here. Yeah, they're like scarecrows. They are kind of scary. I mean, I almost feel like, when I look at Dan's picture right there, I feel like he's looking at me as if he knows that like I've done something wrong, and he's judging me. And then you've got Rob there, with that, insane jawline and chin, just piercing your soul with his gaze. John Stamos is stuck in traffic along with Dan. Apologies, guys, but what an amazing recovery in the markets. I'm sure you guys are aware, but we had the largest liquidation event in crypto history just a few days ago. It was very ugly. I certainly was shitting myself. I'm sure you guys were shitting yourselves too. That's the thing. I mean, people think that, if you've been around for a while, like, you don't sweat a little bit when something like that happens. But I was certainly I was terrified. I was like, oh my God. I remember telling my wife, and I know it's the PTSD speaking, but I was like, holy shit, that was like 30% of our net worth evaporated in like 2 days. I'm like shitting myself right now. I need to stay up and, watch these markets. And because there were certain levels I had my eyes on. I was like, if we lose these levels, like if this is it somehow, it doesn't look like it. Like I've never seen a top look like that ever. But if this is it, I need to be ready to act.
Yeah, the raw numbers are staggering. There's no way around it. It's really hard, especially if you're a trader. If you're just like, I'm a holder, I've been holding 5 years, you're probably over it. But as a trader, there's two ways to look at it. I mean, on the one side, you can try to protect from losing, but on the other side, and this is what really pissed me off last weekend, is that I felt like there was such a huge opportunity there. And the last time that happened, or at least that I can remember, was like Thanksgiving 2020. And I was there. I had a couple drinks. I was trading, and I saw ETH just plummet like an insane amount. And I did something stupid. I wouldn't do it again, but I aped in like 100 ETH. I don't know, like 10x or something. This was like ETH was like way below 700, whatever. But and then I got liquidated instantly, and it just kept going down. And I was like, wow, in for a dollar, in for a dime. And I fucking smashed the bid for like 300 ETH. And like 30 seconds later, I was up like 30K. And then I sold it. And I was like, it was stupid. Don't trade like that.
Right.
But I did that. And so in this case, I was ready for it mentally. Like I came over, I was watching Game of Thrones. I got the alerts. I was like, oh, fuck. Holy fuck. Everything's happening. And then I was like, this is so big and so violent that it's going to snap back. There will be like a 50% pullback. And then I looked, and I had one position on FTX. It was REN. It was underwater as fuck because my stop market started like slowly liquidating. I just canceled it. I was like, well, this is ridiculous. It's way below where I tried to exit. And so I was stuck. I didn't have the funds to aggressively buy the dip. And then a lot of my other funds were on MetaMask or whatever, Mute. And the price barely dipped over there on the coins I wanted. So it was a little disappointing. Sometimes. Yeah, it was a little disappointing overall. But the snapback this week's been great. ETH is looking strong.
Ethereum looks fantastic. Bitcoin looks like it might be in a crab market for a while. The funny thing is I didn't understand the crab meme for a while. But
I still don't. What is it?
Well, okay, so basically, you've got a bull market, right? Which price is going up. You've got a bear market, price is going down, and then you've got a crab market. Crabs go sideways, right? That's what a crab market is.
Okay.
So I think just like a sideways market, it just needed a mascot, basically. The other market conditions have a mascot. So that is what a crab is. Maybe it's like the boomer in me. I know both myself and RT are getting up there age-wise. So, maybe that's why we didn't, quite grasp it or catch on. But I'm not quite sure, what's going on here. I was posting in messy charts today. Ethereum just looks so great. And, if you've got that same kind of ascending megaphone drawn on Ethereum Bitcoin on your charts, it does look like the top of that megaphone would give Ethereum about 35% upside, assuming Bitcoin remain, or 35% upside relative to Bitcoin, assuming Bitcoin remains where it is right now, which, I don't know if it's going to go down, up, or whatever. That would place Ethereum around $3,200, which would be an absolutely fantastic move. There's a couple of things that could happen though. Maybe Bitcoin reclaims its breakdown. I know a lot of people have drawn wedges and things like that in their Bitcoin chart. I certainly have, and for all intents and purposes, like Bitcoin looks broken down to me. The logical thing to do, or at least from a trader's mindset, is I would imagine people would be trying to short Bitcoin here. But even then, it's Bitcoin is broken down and the dumps are getting rejected. So, are we in this environment again where we have these large institutional players, running TWAP algorithms and things like that? It refuses to get super bearish, which is probably a good thing for the entire market. We did have that massive washout. If you're exposed to shitcoins, DeFi like I was, it was really, really ugly that day. But, seeing especially Ethereum recover in the way it has, we're about to make new local highs in Ethereum, Bitcoin. Ethereum's back at $2,400. Incredible strength. There's almost like a wedge structure that Ethereum broke out. We retested that wedge and the throwback to 1900, and we're up $600, $500 since then, which is extremely impressive. But we do have EIP 1559 coming up in July. I do believe is that, nears, and I do think that is the narrative for Ethereum's strength right now. But I think as that nears, that we'll be hearing more and more about Ethereum. We'll be hearing more and more about EIP 1559. I do kind of have it in my mind that could be the top, as far as Ethereum is concerned. And I've expressed this before, but, dependent on how well DeFi, Ethereum, et cetera, performed during that period of time, I do think that will be an ideal time to rotate back into Bitcoin. Now, I missed out on that last super obvious rotation. That was at the end of DeFi summer when everybody was all Ethereum, DeFi. Ethereum-based DeFi had basically become unusable at that point. We saw conditions in the DeFi markets that were really, really similar to what's going on Binance Smart Chain right now. Just outright crazy scams, going 10x in a couple of days.
Billion X.
Yeah, but it is extremely similar in my opinion, those conditions, which is a little terrifying, if you are a BSC guy or a BNB guy to see that play out. But I do think that, after we see Ethereum, DeFi rally and all that, you're going to have Ethereum maximalists, on their high horse. You're going to have people dogging Bitcoin. Bitcoin may have been crabbing for a month or two or maybe even more. I do think at that point that people are going to become underexposed to Bitcoin again. So if I'm hilariously rich by then, I don't want to just totally miss out on Bitcoin's upside. I do think it has more upside. I do think 100K at least for Bitcoin is written in the stars. So I think, maybe a 70-30% allocation to stables, getting that nice, 20% APY while it lasts, maybe 30% to Bitcoin. It really just depends on how well I perform over the next couple of months.
Yeah, we got some good questions here in the chat. Ian says, how is the supply reduction for ETH the top? And then Roberto follows up with, are you selling right after? ? And I can't speak for you. I would say, first of all, the top is just this kind of mystical creature. I still think we're going higher in another cycle someday, this decade, generational asset class kind of thing.
I'm not calling the top. Let's be clear about that. For
sure. And that's what I wanted to clarify. Like if we rotate, if we cycle hard in Q2 and it's like ETH BTC is rallying, we're up to 0.55, we're up to 0.8, 0.1, then yeah, that EIP not launching, that's probably going to be the local top, like a sell the news event. But it's so far out, it's really hard to say. You got to rally into something like that for me to be convinced it's going to be a sell the news.
Here's the thing. It doesn't matter how bullish the news is. Look, for weeks and weeks and weeks, I think we discussed in DeltaFi how, the actual Coinbase direct listing could be a top event for Bitcoin. And for weeks and weeks and weeks, if you were on Twitter, if you were looking around, people were like, are you kidding? That's the most bullish thing ever. That's only an idiot would say that's the top, blah, blah, blah. In crypto, though, often news events like that are at least a local top. And, regardless of what anyone says, look at that Coinbase direct listing. It was, in fact, a local top. And following that listing was the largest liquidation event in crypto history. I mean, $10 billion liquidated in less than 24 hours. Over 1 million traders liquidated in less than 24 hours. That's why I don't fuck with leverage. I mean, holy shit.
Savage. And I typically don't fuck with leverage, but only recently, like I was talking on Twitter, getting into my FTX cross leverage, but I keep it, I keep it real. I keep my liquidation prices basically at $0 or $1 or whatever, or in Ren's case, like 1 cent. But yeah, what I just learned on the weekend is that just that one position being heavily underwater, it really handcuffs you with whatever collateral I had left, some of which was not USD. It was like other collateral that had obviously just dropped too. I was like, fuck, if I long ETH here, like my liquidation prices on both these are going to shoot up. I'm not going to take that risk. So leverage was a little savage. DeFi coins, they took less of a hit in some cases, but overall it was pretty gross. Let's talk about why there is this phenomenon of buy the rumor, sell the news, because I know you like to talk about psychology on your stuff. I mean, I studied in university. It's my favorite topic when it comes to trading is psychology. And this buy the rumor, sell the news is not new. And it's one of those really dependable things because it is so heavily ingrained in just human psychology. So when you have something coming up, like Coinbase listing, like a mainnet launch, probably the best one, or an exchange listing, what you have is anticipation of a very good thing. And everyone wants to front run that. We want to buy the asset that has got good news coming. But once that good news hits, once that event happens, price is already up. It was a known event. It's priced in at that point. And so the trade often ends up reversing right at the moment when most people think it's just going to start. And it's one of the easiest things to not, to fuck up as a newer trader, a newer participant, until you've seen it time and time and time again. And it's kind of what we saw.
Counterintuitive. Newer traders look at something like that and they think, for example, the IP 1559. Well, why is Ethereum implementing a deflationary monetary policy? Why is that something that's potentially bearish for Ethereum? Well, look, let's be clear about that. It's not bearish at all. It's actually extremely bullish. Just like RandomTask was saying, the bullishness, the actual upside of that gets priced in before the event because the event is known rather than after the event.
Yeah, and when it's like something like a mainnet, right? The idea is, okay, this is a placeholder token, but when mainnet launches, there's, we're going to need the token for smart contracts for whatever use case that particular token is. But what we fail to realize is that the actual demand, especially for a new mainnet, is never going to be as high as the speculative demand leading into it. And so mainnet launches are probably one of my favorite trades as far as like, okay, mainnet launching in 2 months, things just like bumping along the bottom. That's going to get excitement and hype and people will speculate that price will go up. And then, but that day that it's like the perfect trade because you have a day, very rare during trading to have something on the X axis. Am I mixing up my axes? Like the Y axis, like where price, that's all my kind of TA, right? Like support, resistance, extensions, retracements. But it's very rare to find a factor in your trading for timing. And so when you have these events like Coinbase, it wasn't like an easy, oh yeah, for sure, sell everything because it's going to drop off. But it was on the easier side.
It's always questionable, because even as an experienced market participant, you always have those doubts. Like, not every news event is a sell the news event. Sometimes things just fucking pump after it. So it's not ever something. Especially, I don't trade leverage, but if I did, these news events for me aren't things that I would necessarily short. It's more like a, hey, we've made a good bit of money leading up into this. Let's de-risk and evaluate after the news event. Let the market react to it, see what's going on. I mean, here's the thing: if it does keep going up, and the news event happens to be one of those rare cases where it is super bullish, you can always, maybe you miss out on 5-10% upside, but you can always buy back in. But missing out on 5-10% upside and buying back in my opinion, is a lot better than, hey, I just took a 30% haircut, on my net worth, which is exactly what happened to me. I'm not a trader, though. I just buy fucking bags and hold on to them. That's pretty much all I'm good at. But,
Well, sometimes that works out. In fact, in a bull market, most times that works out. There's definitely, there's single bags that I had last year that just, if I just held those and went off to some vacation somewhere and came back right now, I would have more money. Like, that's a fact. I am not out trading my swap bag from July 2019. Things up 1,000x. But you know, you got to realize that when you are trading, especially if you're fucking with leverage, having a good understanding of how to play these events is important. Now, the wisest thing I've been told, and probably will stand the test of time more than any other strategy, is simply to take size off when you're coming in to a large fundamental catalyst. Because whether you think you know or don't know what's going to happen, whether you're right or wrong, there's usually a lot of fuckery around that event due to people making big plays like, oh, it's going to, go long, it's going to go short, we're going to crush it. And so you end up with Darth Maul wicks, you end up with cascades. And I kind of fucked that up because I talked about that last week. I said, wise man once said not to put on size into an event. And so I didn't. And then after the event came, it kind of rolled over a bit, but it had just broken to new highs and had some nice volume. And I was like, yeah, I'm feeling pretty comfy. Thank God I closed my algo and a few other longs. So it was really just the Ren one that stuck me a bit. But
where was it that Ren had one son? Was that on Binance Perp?
Yeah. So Binance USD pair or USDT pair. And so what people also may not realize.
Spot market.
Yeah, but the margin, their margin trading ties into their spot market.
Oh, okay.
So if you go to their margin section and you borrow, put a bunch of Bitcoin in or whatever, and then borrow some of that, buy a whole fuckload of Ren, you're essentially, well, in that case, the BTC pair, but you can take it with USDT too. So, and I've seen that before where, Algo USDT, we'll pull up the chart in a sec, just had a wick down and then back up, and that's the margin, and that's a cascade liquidation. So Ren hit 1 cent. So anybody who had margin long on Ren got completely liquidated, wiped out. It cleared the entire fucking book.
So we're talking about cascades. Would you care to maybe explain what exactly a margin cascade is? For the people listening that don't know, I would imagine some of them do.
Yeah, let's pull up a chart.
I'll briefly explain what it is. Basically, what happens is people start getting liquidated. The price is very bearish. Those liquidations are appearing on the ask. It's providing a lot of resistance, to the upside. Those liquidation engines are trying to take care of those positions so the traders don't end up with negative balances on exchange. And what ends up happening is the liquidations actually cause a snowball effect to where more liquidations happen, and then those liquidations cause more liquidations, and then those liquidations cause more liquidations, and it just ends up being a huge washout. A lot of these margin cascades, it's very obvious on Ren, for example. You'll see these absolutely massive wicks to the downside, where basically the entire bid ends up being wiped. I know some very successful traders that are very good at placing stink bids in these events. And that's exactly what a stink bid is designed to do, is to catch some of these just unreasonable wicks to the downside. Now, if you had stink bids on Ren, that cascade was so fucking big that you probably got wiped out anyway. But to whoever bought Ren at 1 cent, you're
if you borrowed, right? And that's the key here. You cannot get liquidated if you have a spot position. So if you had some stink bids on Ren USD, let's just pull that chart up while we're talking about it. If you had some stink bids here, now I don't even know, I know you can't place absurd high asks anymore on Binance. They kind of cap you within a certain percentage of price. So I don't know what their deal is with stink bids. I haven't tried to set one in a while. But what you're doing is, and I guess one of the reasons you might do it on Binance is because you got to understand that Ren USDT is a spot pair, but it is linked to their margin trading. So people are borrowing either Ren or USDT, and then they're using that to buy more Ren than they can afford. And that's great if you're in an uptrend or if you're breaking out and you just want to crank up a little leverage, put less of your capital into one position so you can spread it out into some other position. Margin is a great tool. But if you don't understand how that works, it can fuck you up. And this obviously is absurd. This almost shouldn't happen. I want to say that they can, FTX has talked about, and I won't get into that. Sam Bankman-Fried's talked about how they have some tools and some safeguards in place to kind of prevent the extreme liquidation cascades. But, this will catch you off guard. And one of the things you got to understand is to close your position, as you just described, you have to sell. So if I borrow a whole bunch and buy here, and to close that position, to pay back my margin, I have to then sell Ren. And so all of these liquidations essentially is closing your position, and they're doing that by selling. And so like you said, it just kind of cascades into one, into another, and you have no idea how leveraged up people are. So you don't realize that, maybe some, you're like for example, my liquidation on Ren for my long on FTX was like 20 cents. So I'm sitting there on FTX. Thank God they didn't have that cascade quite the same. I'll show you what I was looking at. Ren P. So this is where I was trading Ren that night, and I was just doing like a little shitty like range trade up here. So I was thinking like, yeah, this thing will come down. It'll fill me somewhere in like a reload zone of this area, and then maybe we'll move up. Little did I know that the entire rug was about to be pulled out from under it. So my stop loss, which was sitting here at the time, triggered, and then I saw it like slowly liquidating me. Like it was like a 300K Ren position, so this is pretty sizey. And it was like 400 Ren, 400 Ren, 400 Ren. And I was doing the math. I was like, dude, that's not going to fully liquidate until it's like at zero. So I just canceled it and figured, I'll add on like a later part of this wick, and then it'll bring my cost down, and then I'll get out. It was a risky thing, but it was like, fuck that. I'm not eating some insane thing. But this did not go all the way to 1 cent, thank God. I mean, my liquidation on here, because it's cross leverage, was like 20 cents. So I can safely assume that this should never happen, even with like what was ultimately the largest cascade ever. And on FTX, they do have protections in place. He did drop a nice thread talking about how they, had a lot less extreme liquidations. And then they actually had some guys who were liquidated who they then refunded because it was kind of an error on the part of their engine. So that's really good customer service. So big shout out to SBF. I don't think you're getting the same treatment on any other exchange like that. So
really quick, before we move into more charts, we had some decent questions in chat from Jermaine Terry. The first of which is, with the IP 1559, do you think Ethereum will take back market share from BNB, or is BNB here to stay? I do think Ethereum is positioned to take back some market share from BNB. BNB, of course, has had an incredible run, and what they've done with Binance Smart Chain is absolutely incredible. I think it's proof that people just want a good casino, to go gamble in right now. It's really all people here are looking for. Everybody here is not really in it for the tech. Let's be honest. Of course, there are a small majority. I do think Ethereum has the ability to change the world at some point when it's ready. But for right now, we're really just kind of looking at decentralized casinos, or in the case of Binance Smart Chain, a decentralized casino. I think it would be really interesting to look at that BNB versus Ethereum chart for one. But like I said earlier, we are reaching the point on Binance Smart Chain. I saw a really interesting post yesterday from PancakeSwap, which is 100x really in a couple of months. Absolutely incredible. That they had done maybe like 2 million transactions in a particular day, where just on PancakeSwap router, okay? Whereas Ethereum, and that entire day, the entire blockchain had only done 1.5 million transactions. And what they were saying, because people were bitching that, hey, PancakeSwap is slow, they were saying, oh, no, it's not that PancakeSwap is slow. It's that, Binance Smart Chain is under extreme loads. Now, Binance Smart Chain is still extremely cheap relative to Ethereum to use, but that was really interesting to see for me, because we saw similar, not exactly the same, but similar conditions towards the end of DeFi summer, where you had, scams just pumping like fucking crazy in a couple of days. We're seeing that on Binance Smart Chain left and right now. Safe Moon, Risk Moon, ass, like there's so fucking many of these. And then you also have that coupled with, hey, Binance Smart Chain is maybe at capacity here, which is really, really interesting to me, because Binance Smart Chain is designed to handle, it's got a much higher throughput than Ethereum. So looking at those factors, I do still think that people are extremely underexposed to Ethereum. I think that they're underexposed to Ethereum-based DeFi as well. So I do think because of those things that Ethereum and Ethereum-based DeFi are both in positions to take back some of that market share, at least from BNB. And if you do look at that BNB chart, it's been an incredible run. Over the course of 2 months, this thing has gone absolutely insane. Now, the actual bottom, the start of this BNB run, was the top of Ethereum-based DeFi, which rallied really, really well from early January to early February. Early February is really when BNB and Binance Smart Chain started just going absolutely apeshit. Now, the second question, also from Jermaine Terry, the whole narrative for BSC was gas fees. If post EIP 1559 can significantly reduce these fees, I wonder what happens to the BSC market cap. Well, I could be wrong in this, but it's my understanding that EIP 1559 isn't so much designed to reduce the gas fees on Ethereum as it is to make them more predictable, which is really important if you're running, bots or, for DApps and things like that. Right now, Ethereum gas is all fucking over the place. If you look at, there's I can't remember the exact website. There's like a gas station site for Ethereum. Those gas prices are for 5 minutes, they'll be at 300 and now they're back to 100 and then they're at 200. It's my
gasnow.org.
Yeah. Gasnow.org. Mm-hmm. It's my understanding the EIP 159 is more of hey, now the gas prices are more predictable, which is definitely a good thing. Now, there's still going to be priority gas auctions and things like that. And basically, you bribe the miners, you tip the miners to be, have some kind of priority inclusion, whether that be for transaction speed or transaction ordering, within a particular block. Those are the kinds of things that it will take care of. Now, in terms of a gas fee reduction for Ethereum, we have seen lower gas prices recently. That's a byproduct of something called flash bots. So, where some of these miners are basically running software and they are these people that are running bots, they carry out arbitrage and things like that on the Ethereum network. The things that really, really drive up the gas are kind of sidestepping that and making their own deals with miners. And what that's actually done is it's made running a lot of these PGA-based bots, that's priority gas auction bots. And these are the bots that will say, hey, we have an $1,000 arbitrage here. I'm going to bid 200 on gas. And then another one says, oh yeah, well, I'm going to bid 300 on gas for that same opportunity. Eventually what ends up happening is, they end up paying $950 in gas for a $1,000 arbitrage. But with flash bots, these guys have actually run to a situation where they can't compete anymore and they're not profitable. So a lot of people have actually had to shut down their PGA-based bots, which has really, really allowed Ethereum to breathe a little bit and not suffer this, 400 GUI, 500 GUI gas. Now, on the margin, on D-Day a couple of days ago, right, when we had these huge margin, cascades and things like that, gas did still get very expensive, which just speaks to the fact that from a scalability standpoint, Ethereum definitely does have some challenges ahead of it still. But with more miners, adopting flash bots, with EIP 1559 approaching, I do not think that that's necessarily something that's going to keep Ethereum and Ethereum-based DeFi from pumping. Now, we might not see 10x in 3 days. Maybe we will, but we might not see 10x in 3 days or anything like SafeMoon happening on the Ethereum blockchain, just because it's not accessible for retail. People don't want to pay $60 for a trade. People don't want to pay $100 for a trade. Especially maybe when their whole trading stack is $1,000. It's just not reasonable. But I definitely do think that there's upside to be had on Ethereum, whether that be 2x, whether that be 5x. The next couple of months are shaping up to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, and if you find the right projects with the right fundamentals, then you can think I'm thinking about ID, right? I've loaded up on ID. Everybody knows that. I held most of it through this. I actually cut a little bit here because of a fib extension that I saw, which is what I think kind of put a stop in the price. I mean, not me, but so point is, this they're partnered with FTX. So do I think that, a million people on TikTok are going to come in and suddenly want to pay $100 per fee, which is what it is right now in Uniswap? Probably not. We're probably not going to get the moon that I would like to see on this coin from that crowd, but this could be slated for an FTX listing because they are partnered with them. It could be slated if the volume ends up at a certain point. Binance.
I thought ID was already on FTX.
Is it? I don't think it is. They're partnered with them. I don't think it's trading there. Well, I could be wrong.
Let me check it out. I could have sworn it was already on FTX, but I could be wrong.
I don't think so, but they are partnered with them. So it's kind of stands to reason that they'll make it on there. We did spot an Alameda wallet loading up. We spotted an Alameda wallet loading up on ID like through this, just 26,000 or 25,000 ID, like, every couple hours or whatever for a few days. So they are building a position, and
that's one of the better looking charts in Ethereum based DeFi right now, in my opinion. We've cleared those previous highs. We've had a throwback to them. There's very obviously buyers in that range. So it'll be really interesting to see how ID proceeds from here.
Yeah, I used the reload zone for what it's for. Finally, you can only reload if you take profit, and I didn't take a ton, but I think I cut maybe, I don't know, 25% of my bag up here, probably a little lower even, and then I bought most of that back, and nothing's changed on this one. It's just going to be a slower mover for now. But what I see here is just this nice kind of meandering kind of uptrend. And these are the things that, they never go parabolic on the first bit, right? Like if you look at any kind of uptrend, they tend to accelerate over time. We're even seeing it with Solana here, right? Solana, people were talking about it. There was the big dump. Everyone was like, oh, there's going to be a huge dump. Well, it was a little dump. And then it's slowly meandering up, and now it's starting to accelerate. And at some point, possibly in what people are starting to already talk about, right? This like Solana DeFi summer, which I do believe in. I think Solana is going to have a really big FU face melt kind of year, based on just where it's valuated versus other top smart contract platforms and what they're building and all this stuff and they're backing, blah, blah, blah. But that parabolic, whatever it's going to look like, if this is what it'll look like or whatever else, that won't go vertical and just be insano until near the end. And whether that's the end and then it has to come back down, but point being, the general nature of this stuff is it's slow, it's gradually and then suddenly. So I see the same kind of thing forming on ID, but it is painful to watch sometimes. Some people messaging me like, "Are you still on ID?" I'm like, "Yeah, man. Like, if I got a $4 target just for my kind of initial primary take profit, I don't change my mind just because the first fib extension did exactly what it's supposed to do, right?" But what are some of the Solana projects aside from Hxro? Obviously, we were talking about the light paper last week. Obviously, jazzed about that 100% value accrual back to the token. I don't think I've heard of such a thing before, at least not lately. What are some of the other projects you're watching on Solana? Do you even have a radar for that yet?
To be quite honest with you, I don't. It's one of the things that I've been meaning to do. I do think that we have not had a proper Solana season yet, and I do think that not just Solana, but there's other things like maybe on Polygon and places like that I do think that we're going to see some things go absolutely apeshit, just due to retail accessibility. If they can make the onboarding experience as easy as it was with BSC, if they can get the right kind of players in, the right kind of money in, I'm definitely 100% sure that the right kind of money is interested. I think that we could see some incredible plays happen on Solana. Now, that's not to say that these Solana tokens haven't had upside. If you look at most of the Solana based projects, they've been doing quite well. But the issue with Solana, or not the issue really, but one of the things that's holding it back, relative to BSC, which saw immediate success and traction almost, is that it's not just a direct copy paste over from Ethereum. BSC launched and immediately benefited from years and years of development and innovation that had occurred on the Ethereum blockchain, because but Binance Smart Chain is basically just a super centralized version of Ethereum, running on a Tendermint consensus algorithm with like 21 nodes. So it's super fast. I could take my Uniswap, for example. I could immediately come copy paste it over, and now, hey, we're on fucking Binance Smart Chain. With Solana, it's a little bit different because, these things are written in Rust. It's going to take a little bit for the innovation to really kick in for Solana. I think that if you are going to be a Solana investor, and you are going to benefit, the most from some of these projects launching in Solana, that you need to have more of a long tail mindset. And people are confused. Wait, long tail? Like, what are you talking about? What does that mean? It just means you need to have a longer term vision. These are some things that right now could be great value buys, some things that have a lot of unrealized upside, but there are also potentially things that you might need to sit on your hands for a bit to really see the fruits, of that upside, and really see your portfolio go up.
Yeah, and through, you got to have conviction, and we talk about this all the time. It's very hard when you're sitting in a project. Let's just pick on FIDA for a sec. Bond FIDA. It's one of the AMM protocols over on Solana. I was messing around with it at $1 here.
What?
I think I think I traded in, traded out. So I don't have any, because at one point I was like, I'm just going to buy a big sandbasket, and I did. And I bought some maps, and I bought some FIDA, and I bought some Serum and Solana and FTT.
Hey, the chart looks fucking awesome.
But then I look back a month later, I'm like, fuck, why did I get out of this one? Because looking it up, reading a white paper, checking in with the community, those are things for me that help build kind of confidence. I think with this one, I just got confused. I was like, okay, Serum's an AMM, that's the plumbing. What the hell does FIDA do? But I see Bond FIDA as one of the routing trading pairs on Serum. So it is right in there. And yeah, I mean, it's a great looking chart. It's an uptrend. It's definitely not parabolic yet. If you want to be bullish, I always say squish the chart. It just looks like it's starting to accelerate. And so if it breaks these highs, it could be good for a double somewhere in the next little bit. And if you get a double, you get a free position for a while. So, put in $100, take your 100 back when it doubles, you get a free ride. And that's kind of something that I think, even just in this conversation, I'm realizing I need to get back to, because the more I talk about it, I don't know what's going on with BSC, what's going on with Ethereum. Pretty bullish on both. But Solana, I am kind of hands down the most bullish on as far as an ecosystem play this year, because of like you said, it's not parabolic yet. It hasn't had its season, and everything about it fundamentally is just so strong. And I feel like it's just a matter of when. So on that note, Johnson, put FIDA on our list. Maps, FIDA, Crowny, somebody mentioned today. Joel Birch is a buddy of mine, Bitcoin Birch on Twitter, founder of Stacked Invest. He tweeted something out about this one today. So maybe I need to give him a call and be like, yo, shill me on Crowny. This apparently, according to someone in the chat, Shreddington, sir. And then Cope. Cope always just seemed like a meme token to me. I don't know. Maybe it's got something good going on behind it, but I need to look into that one. And if I can just maybe take 1% of my portfolio and put it into 10 different Solana projects now, and then just commit to not really looking back till maybe September. And
I honestly don't think that's a bad play. Guys, I've just spoken with Ledgerstatus. He's going to be joining us for about 15 minutes. So I'm definitely interested in hearing his take on the market. Yeah, fuck yeah. We will be graced by his presence very soon, hopefully. Hello. Testing.
Oh, there he is.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
So we're going to give the producer a second to plug him in. Maybe he can have Rob or Dan's slot there. We'll let the producer.
Of Rob's face.
There it is.
So, Ledgerstatus, are you hanging in there? Are you surviving? What do you think about the markets in general right now?
Man, I'm surviving is a good way to put it. I look like your typical DeFi chart where it hadn't done jack crap since February.
I feel that.
I didn't go chasing the pretty shiny things on BSC and elsewhere, and I'm paying for it. You know what I mean? But that's okay. I feel better sleeping at night when I don't know if Safe Moon's going to go down 65% in one 30-minute candle. So,
Jesus. Yeah, I was looking at that. I tweeted out one of the guy's wallets. No idea who, if he was team or whatever, but he had put in $15,000 to that thing 44 days ago, I guess 45 now. And I don't even know which one of these to pick, but yeah, it's worth $350 million now. But now it's worth $100 million. And I'm just okay, obviously you can't get out with all that, but probably could get out with a good amount.
Yeah. It's been really interesting seeing the rotations because we had, we started with DeFi repricing, and then we moved on to NFT picks and shovels, like the NFTXs of the world. And you go look at NFTX as an example. I mean, it's just bled as NFTs top. These narratives have shifted really quickly. BSC is having its moment, but out of those, I'm bullish on PancakeSwap's ability to survive They've been the sushi of this ecosystem to me. Like something that starts kind of absurd and then just is amazing. I should have just I put $5,000 on Cake to try it out last September, and it would have been like $500,000 or $1 million or
Oh my God.
$5 million.
Jesus.
It would have been some absurd amount of money. And because you just get like 300% ROI staking it, and it goes up 100x at the same time. It's like, so like there's some amazing ones that come out of the whole process like that, but most are just going to go down 99% because they're absolute cash grabs. Like
is the ROI really that good on staking Cake?
Yeah, it's a 6-figure ROI still today, and it's
God.
And the coin is also just continuously mooning and compounding your gains on a daily basis. Turn it into that's what APY stands for, right? APY requires compounding. It's I mean, Cake's been absolutely incredible for anyone that's participated, and I was like, back when it was at 40 cents, I was like, this can't sustain. This inflation's insane. But they hustle so hard. They totally 100% sushi themselves. Like, I'm very impressed with the PancakeSwap person. I don't know if this is a one person like team just like going nuts, or if there's 10 people. I have no idea. But they're hustling. They're doing a lot of interesting stuff. But like, it'll get priced back down at some point. It'll hit. It'll take a turn. But I would look for sushi-like opportunities. When sushi went down to 80% after everybody thought DeFi summer was over, and then it was like, oh crap, this thing's real. I think that's the next opportunity in the BSC landscape, is not like FOMOing PancakeSwap from $28 to $108 or something like that. It's waiting until it chills out, and then realizing that this team is legit and has made a place for themselves in the AMM landscape, and see what they do next, but find it when it's a relative value again.
Now, what's it like your take on just BSC as a whole right now? And let me just preface this with earlier in our stream, I talked about how what we're seeing on Binance Smart Chain right now is extremely similar to what we saw at the end of DeFi summer, where we just see absolute fucking scams going like 10x in a couple of days. There's clearly a lot of euphoria in the air. We've got these bullish narratives for Ethereum, starting to emerge again with the IP 1559. I mean, do you think that as a whole, Binance Smart Chain is maybe potentially just getting heated up, or do you think that the end is nigh?
I think BSC token pumps are very, very, very near the end. I'm willing enough to call it a top, because we're just now starting to see BTC heat up significantly. 1559 is not even close to priced in. And the way I view BSC is that it's a very centralized sidechain, but it's a full EVM drop in, and it's done its job. Like when ETH does this, that's essentially what you're going to run into, is people escape to where the fees are acceptable. But it's not. I don't consider it a true layer one. I don't consider it decentralized. It's a centralized ETH sidechain. It's performed its job, and the pricing of all of the assets in the ecosystem around BSC represent that currently. And I would not be optimistic for continued multiples in that landscape. Whereas I look at a lot of stuff in the ETH DeFi landscape, and if you think these transaction levels are high, wait until you can make these types of transactions on a decentralized layer two, like Optimistic or ZK rollups with Optimism and Arbitrum, and like see those wars and see the scalability without the centralized sacrifices that you make on BSC. That gets very, very interesting to me. And I think the transaction counts are going to be amazing. And I think one other thing is when you get the fee reductions, it increases the amount of things that you can do in DeFi, like auto compounding or, rolling strategies that don't require $250 transactions to shift around. You just have to have like hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars to make, various DeFi tools work. And you have to, when you pull the fees down to cents, that has enabled BSC to be a playground for some of the stuff that we'll be able to see happen on ETH. But as soon as ETH can scale with L2, real projects will largely be ignored. Most projects on BSC will largely be ignored, and a few will adapt and go multi-chain. And multi-chain is really where we're going to end up in the end anyway. And the bridges will be really important. That's my take. I could be completely wrong, but that's my take.
Do you think that, you know, we're at a point in time where you know, we're going to see Ethereum and Ethereum-based DeFi, you know, really kick off and rally? Or do you think that the scalability challenges, you know, that are still there, even with things like flashbots, you know, reducing gas prices?
Yeah, I mean, we still hit gas like 400 something Gwei the other night. I was trying to do some stuff, and it was $70 to send a few $1,000s in USDC.
Yeah, it's been
that's
brutal.
But I think we're a lot closer to projects deploying on layer 2 than people think. And when Uniswap and Aave and a couple of majors are doing a majority of their transactions on layer 2, they're what are causing the majority of the traffic on layer 1. So it's going to be a compounding effect, right? The most used and in-demand apps are going to move to layer 2, and they're going to be pennies in fees. And then layer 1 is going to become cheaper because the most used apps have moved to layer 2. So you're not going to have 400 Gwei gas. You're going to have like 60 Gwei gas again. And that when that transition occurs, and I think it'll occur this summer or like early fall at the latest, that is going to enable an explosion of activity. And all of this like TVL and transaction counts, all the different metrics that you want to look at are just going to go absolutely insane. And I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting to hear you bring up things like multi-chain, you know, that whole interop layer that's not really functional yet. We've got things like Cosmos and DOT and some other projects working on it. But
Yeah.
I just think ahead, and I just think, you know, okay, people are talking about tops this week, tops next month, tops in the end of EIP 9559, or maybe it's a 2017 fractal we're going to top in December. But all that to say that we won't be at a point of full functionality in like for at least 2 years. And so despite my bear market PTSD, despite, you know, not really wanting to stick around with any particular size through whatever is going to come after this current bull cycle, I am so excited for what this is going to look like on the next round, or if we just continue through and there is no, you know, this time and next time, maybe it's just a super cycle. But hearing you talk about this stuff just reminds me of, like, again, how early we are. You know, this time 2017, there was no DeFi, there was no, you know, very few smart contracts you really needed to interact with. It's just fucking exciting, bro.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff going on, man. And I'm I don't know. We're early and we're late, right? We're running hot, but I think people are going to mistake the next drawdown whenever that occurs as if it's the end, and I don't think it's going to be the end. I think it's going to be the 30%, you know, get the new people out type of thing before you carry on. Suzu's like the ultimate bull, but he talks a lot about how, you know, Amazon and all those, like, yeah, sure, the first one was a massive bubble and most died, but then the ones that survived and like worked through it, they didn't do the full cycle again. It's not like Amazon lost 90% again. And this might be what we visit with productive assets in DeFi, is they don't have the minus 95% whatever type of environment. The productive ones with cash flow and you know, token value accrual and all that. One other thing I was going to say, and
no, go ahead.
Talking about like where that activity is going to occur and what the delays are. Like I'm very interested in Solana, and I know y'all have some partnerships with them and stuff. But even with Solana, working on Solana is not a direct EVM transport, right? It's not like I deploy the same smart contract on BSC that I do on Ethereum. You're working with a different code framework. You're working in a different ecosystem, and that's the biggest risk to those versus Ethereum. So like people have to be incentivized for all the other reasons, like the transaction scalability and, you know, the activity they'll be able to perform on that ecosystem. Or else, if they don't, it has the threat of being an empty cathedral like Tezos or something, which people just didn't want to work in OCaml or whatever it is that Tezos is in. And I believe in Solana, and I don't bet against Sam to be able to accomplish this, like incentivizing developers to build for that ecosystem. And as Messi is pulling up to try, to tell me I'm wrong, like having port bridges to enable Solidity on Solana, that's the next big thing that it needs, because what we're seeing is a developer standard being created in the Ethereum landscape. And if you can't have Solidity, then you don't have anything. And
yeah, I heard somewhere that Solidity's coming to Solana. That's why I was trying to look it up, because I keep talking about it because I heard about it, and I was like, fuck it, I should probably find a source on that. So I'm looking here as we talk, but you're right. I mean, I talked about this a couple weeks ago on this stream about, Rust being a major bottleneck right now, even just in hiring Rust developers. I'm hearing, annual salaries north of 200,000 just to get the top Rust devs.
What's the same thing for Solidity devs? I mean, they're, if you fucking have an idea for a project, in the past I posted like, hey, we're for Hxro, we were looking for Solidity devs to do something, and it was almost impossible to fucking find anybody, at any kind of price point. So much of this code is written by Galaxy brains. It's copy and pasted, and it's amended by people with lesser skills. One of the advantages of Solana, using something like Rust versus Tezos at least. First and foremost, you're 100% right. Like I said earlier, we don't benefit from years and years and years of ingenuity and creation and building that's already happened on F. Like Binance Smart Chain. But at the same time, it's much easier to find Rust engineers out there, I think, than it is to find, these advanced Solidity engineers, just because the programming language is used all over the world for other applications. If we're looking at something like Solidity, it's very specific to Ethereum. And then when you look at something like Tezos and you're looking at OCaml or whatever, like you said, I mean, who the fuck writes in that? Like nobody. So you're kind of just a shit out of luck there.
Yeah, I think I'm like I said, I'm not against Solana. I'm very interested in what they're building and going to do. I think it's going to take time to for the ecosystem to round out. Onboard those Rust developers to be crypto native and dealing with financials, which is what Solidity developers had to figure out too, because they used to be JavaScript developers, and Ethereum's much closer to having financial ready applications, hardened applications with TVL at risk, because with TVL is great, but it's also putting money at risk. And the longer it stays unhacked, the more confidence you end up with in that code. And that's a process for anyone else that's building out an ecosystem. And
I don't think we've seen any major hacks or rugs on Solana yet. I'm not quite sure if that's because people are building bulletproof code because they're getting these super high quality engineers to build out these projects, or if it's because it's just immature. I'm sure at some point there is going to be some kind of bad thing that happens.
And right now you can launch all those fly by night type of things on BSC very easily. So if Solana proves itself as the real place, like ETH, and people then try to stretch themselves, flex their muscles a little bit, building something, there's going to be vulnerabilities. Code has bugs. It's the one true thing about code is it has bugs. But
especially when you're in a FOMO market where a lot of these new projects are coming out, just rushing to production because they're like, man, we got to hit this thing. And a lot of them are shitty anyways. And they're like, they're thinking up random video game-esque DeFi farms overnight. Right. They don't necessarily run all those tests. Where I think like what you said, Daniel, right now on Solana, you got to be pretty serious to be there right now because there's not a lot of quick money.
Yeah, but RT, you're showing on this chart that ETH has a season on its way that people are not pricing in. Solana ran from $1 to $30. ETH has not 30x'd.
This chart gives me.
This chart is making new weekly highs, and if it sustains those weekly highs, I used to say 0.055 is a magnet, and I now think it's going to be like a cardboard ceiling that it just blasts right through. I truly think that.
I think so as well. I think 0.08 is now the magnet level.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, last time you were on the stream here, Ledger, was back here, just as we were breaking through this, and we were talking about that 0.55, thinking like it could be 9 days away. And in true form, you know, the market made us wait. It said, okay, we're going to break out. We're going to confirm this weekly structure, but now we're going to shit your pants for a couple months. And the second time through up here, it just looks so strong.
How many people want to capitulate the Ethereum ecosystem right now, though? Like between DeFi, ETH itself, like they've been so depressed.
Yeah, and now you're watching people that are literal like TikTok brainlets, you know, making 100x on SafeMoon. Did you guys see that TikTok video of that dude?
You're like, bro,
I'm so fucking proud of you guys. I'm so fucking proud of you guys. Holy SafeMoon, I'm a fucking millionaire now. I saw this.
We're like coping, saying, "Hey man, I hadn't made a new portfolio all-time high in 2 months or 3 months." Or something.
I'm totally coping. Like I'm just gonna be totally like 100% honest right now. You know, I wish that were me, because you know I know when I feel like that, I'm like, holy shit, I'm dumping so hard right now. This is crazy, and you just have to understand. Like I can't imagine how many of these TikTok guys, you know, bought the top of SafeMoon or the top of Ass. Even guys like KSI, you know, he's massive YouTuber with 6 million followers that bought the top of Ass, you know, and he's fucking down like what 80% in a matter of hours. Like
I can't even find Ass. I just looked at. I was like, okay, you know, and I'm gonna bite. I'm gonna
top of Ass is your headline.
Yeah, he literally bought Ass at the top. he bought the most expensive Ass that there has ever been.
It'll never be more expensive.
Really nice guy, by the way. Like,
he does appear super nice. I did watch that episode with Manzic.
He came on on the show, but we actually still chat, and just a super nice guy, super chill.
Yeah,
he's just a new crypto person, just like everybody else. He just has a lot more money up front.
Needs to be christened. Yeah.
he's coming in, you know, definitely not, you know, in real life a left side of the curve guy, but in crypto he's definitely a left side of the curve guy, and he's just coming in with huge money, and you know, sometimes that gets you in a lot of trouble, and sometimes you end up getting omega rich with that mentality. So that's the point to it.
He's going to end up fine. Like he'll be fine. I'm not worried about it.
Well, you know, when you have infinite ammo, you know, you're usually okay.
Just release a new video or something.
Yeah.
Hey, one thing I want to ask you about while we got you here. Last time you were on, we talked about the 20-week moving average, and you kind of put it back on my radar. It's something I had talked about in 2019 a little bit with trying to spot the breakout of the bull. We haven't touched it since October. What's your take on it? Is this the time now with the exhaustion we're seeing on the weekly? You know, if the time is ever, is it in the next 6 weeks we're gonna just give that thing that nasty little shakeout tag and move on, or what?
We're well past due for it, but it makes me nervous, and I think I've been strategizing what's gone on here, because we just refused to revert to the mean on the high time frames, and we did it frequently in 2017. And I think the biggest reason is that in 2017 cash drove the market, and in 2021 derivatives are driving the market, and it takes much less of a breakdown to wash out derivatives because people are so freaking highly levered. So that one daily candle washes out $10 billion in liquidations, and that gives you permission to move up. And we might grind here and do it again if people still have ammo to lose and to donate to CZ or whoever collects all those liquidations. But it's the derivatives, I think, have made the dips smaller because they end up wicking so quickly that it gives the market permission to move up. And we don't see this like grinding cash-based capitulation. Instead, we just see like a forever bid on cash picking up the pieces from these derivatives-led sell-offs. That's my best theory, but eventually you still pay the piper, so it'll probably happen. I just don't know when.
Yeah, I like that take a lot.
I'm hearing from people, and this is fucking hilarious. In chat, somebody said you have to use poo charts, and I was like, "What the fuck? Like, are you serious?" But I actually Googled this, and there is a PooCoin.app, which is like the best way to put it is it's like the what was that thing? Dex tools, okay, but for Binance Smart Chain.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I still use Dex Vision, but it was some Hex guy who now created a Hex mobile app, and he doesn't care about the charting tool anymore. But Dex Vision has the Uniswap pairs on it that I still use. But if I need sushi pairs, You got to use SushiSwap or SushiPro.io, and now BSC is PooCoin. Like, it's just getting worse and worse.
I've always used ChartX for SushiSwap. You know, I'm not a huge fan of the way those candles are constructed, though. It just looks really ugly, especially I'm a big Dex.Vision fan myself. I think the charts look great. They're really clean.
Right. And they're fast.
I didn't know. Would you say the SushiSwap one was?
SushiPro.io. It's also ugly.
SushiPro.io. Okay.
It ends up being that I don't use any of them, and it probably has prevented me from playing in some of these ecosystems because I can't chart them as easily.
That's been my problem with BSC. Is that I need to see a chart. I need to see some price action just to have a sense of gravity. You know, like where
I should have known, because that was my edge in the early, in when I got into DeFi summer, is I found some of these charting tools before other people did, and I realized how true to the low time frame charts they were. So people were like looking at DEX tools, and all you see is like the last like 10 minutes of buys and sells. You don't actually see an hourly chart or anything. And I was looking at hourly charts, buying the pennant, selling the breakup, and like those little breakups off a pennant were a 2x or something. Same thing happened on BSC. Is like when you take when fewer people have access to the charts, the animal spirits of the market take over instead, because you just see like, oh, it's up 10%, it's up another 10%, it's up another 10%. It's like just pure psychology. But in reality, the charts are like super obedient to the TA once people don't have access to the charts. So like if you can be early to having that access to the charts, it actually is a huge level of alpha.
Sushi Pro is actually quite nice. Thanks for that. Thanks for that tip. I'll be checking it out.
Yeah,
I'm actually
probably better than
something
PooCoin.
on. Yeah, it's definitely better. I'm looking at something called Ruler right now. Have you guys heard of that?
No.
It's some kind of lending protocol. I need to do more research. I know a good buddy of mine, DeFi Ted, is involved. He's put me on a lot of things that ended up going fucking insane. But I can't quite decide what I'm thinking about this chart right now. It's
looks pretty flat.
Yeah, it looks pretty flat. I don't know. I mean, there's definitely some volume there. Is that accumulation? There's.
Do you want to pull up? Do you want to do a screen share?
I feel like I have no alpha. I feel like such a boomer. I'm just stuck in my like DeFi blue chip mentality because they have liquidity. And then you go over here and you find out some scam on BSC has like 100 million in liquidity. And it's like, what? Like, how is
that possible? Like,
I literally tweeted that out last night as like, if you're not on TikTok, like finding the next scam pump coin, you are a crypto boomer. And then I'm a crypto
boomer for the first time.
I think we all are.
I feel like I'm out of date, with what all the kids are buying these days. I'm just like Ledger. I'm stuck in, my DeFi bags on Ethereum, and it's been a kind of depressing couple of months. I was just telling RandomTask at the beginning of the stream. Unfortunately, right before I lost probably 20% of my net worth, I showed my wife my portfolio balance.
You can't do it.
You can't do it.
You got to sell half as soon as you do that, man.
Yeah, that was the sign right there. But I managed to hit a new portfolio ATH, and I was
we're at all-time high, and I'm going to sell half right now.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, we went driving around looking at houses for like 3 or 4 hours, and
you gotta tell me next time you do this, man.
I should. I mean, that's almost as bad of an omen as us going and getting drinks.
You got to teach the lady that as soon as you show me as soon as I show you anything, just pat me on the head and say, now go sell half.
Yeah, go sell.
Dude, last time I told my wife the portfolio balance, I thought I was being safe because I was actually telling her a number that was well below where I actually was. And like, I've been trying to get back to that number.
Oh man.
All right.
The feels.
On that, I'm just going to go cope, and I got to go to a meeting, but I wanted to say hello to you, gentlemen. Thanks for
being Ledger. Thanks for stopping by, brother.
It's great to have you, brother.
Take it easy, guys.
Cheers.
Never, ever show your wife your portfolio balance. It's a very, very strong omen. I said earlier, it's Ledgerstatus and I famously have drinks at local tops. And also, I buy cars at local tops as well. So just some things to look out for that have been, pretty much 100% success rate signals.
Well, hey, buying cars, you can't go wrong with spending at tops. If that's going to be your top signal, that's probably one of the better ones. I thought in 2017, I had no fucking idea. I'd never had any amount of money that I could, make a decision about really, right? It was always like bill to bill, debt payment to debt payment. And so when I finally got to this point where I had a couple six figures at the end of 2017, and I was scared shitless. I was like, I don't know what to do with money. Like, I need to find a guy. And I was shocked when I went to see this advisor. The first thing he said was like, you should spend some. And I was thinking he was going to tell me to save it and store it and invest it. And he's like, nah, man, go fucking buy it.
That's my biggest regret from 2017. I had money. I ended up losing pretty much all of that money, but I didn't spend pretty much any of it. And the funny thing, the irony there is I thought I was being smart. Could I have bought a Lambo? Like, absolutely. And that Lambo would have ended up being a better investment than the things I bought, in early 2018.
The ICOs that I chased through Q2 and Q1.
I mean, that's the irony there. Cake looks really, really good, versus BUSD, by the way. I see you have that chart open. But I guess buying a car, even if it is a top sign, is definitely a good thing for you. You're the one that, got value out of that. For everybody else, though, it ends up being nasty.
It's still the top. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I picked up a new vehicle this year as well. Nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy, but it was like, I bought a new car at the end of 2017, but it was like a Honda Civic, which was still a huge upgrade for me given the year it was. But yeah, I picked up a little whip, and funny enough, I don't really drive much. It's locked down. I'm not allowed to leave my house, even if I did leave the screens. But it's four-wheel drive. It's a fam jam car, four-wheel drive. Little Audi SQ5, so I'm pretty pumped about that. But man, that thing you picked up, what car is that? Is it AMG or something?
It's an AMG GT63. I really don't drive too much either. And I've been ahead of Miami. I'm not going to be the guy that shows up, looking like shit. So I've actually been on a new gym program that I really like. And it's really interesting because I for the longest time, I've worked out for a long time on and off. Sometimes more seriously others, but everybody's always a huge fan of the bro workout, right? That's I'm going to work the pecs, I'm going to work my shoulders, I'm going to get my biceps big. Those are the things that you look good in a shirt, right? Walking around, you look like you're thick, solid, and tight. I never really appreciated leg day until I like brutally trained my legs, and it was like a it became like a labor of love, just because I started seeing the results come in. I went through the pain, and I was like, okay, I can do this. Like, this is great. But the new workout program that I'm on is really interesting in that it's basically, it's 6 days a week. You go to the gym every day, but there's not a leg day. Every single day you do a leg workout though. So for example, Monday was squats. Tuesday was Romanian deadlifts. I think today might be goblet squats or something like that. I'm going to go after this, but it's really interesting because you get the benefits. There's a lot of studies on doing a full body workout, the growth hormone release and things like that, increased metabolism.
That's what I was just going to say. Testosterone levels after 30, they drop.
Yeah.
So if you do more legs,
I can tell.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you get those legs, I talked to a buddy, he said, every other workout, or in your case, every workout, if I ever do an app, like one of those programs on like Fitbod app or whatever I was using last year, and there's a ton more legs than I'm used to, but it's a lot of functional strength too, right? It's like lunges and squats, like all these things where it's like movement is built in. So it's not just like leg extension machine where you're just like, kind of rote movements.
Right.
I love it. And I'm glad to hear you're kicking ass in the gym right now. I just did probably my hardest Peloton workout today. Nothing crazy, but a nice 30-minute ride where you're just giving her and you get the little weights going and you're doing boxing and all this shit, which is actually incredibly tiring.
I didn't know that they had. I thought it was just bike. They've got more than that.
Yeah, the app is actually dope. I want to buy stock in them. I was like showering after today. I was like, man, I got to buy some stock in it. Like their program, they got yoga, they got meditation, they got stretching, core, and it's all 5, 10, 20, 30, 60 minutes.
Is there like a recommendation? Like, you went on a spin class, right? And then after that, they were like, okay, now it's time for some boxing, or you just kind of like taking workouts and, piecing them together? Yeah,
this one was a ride where it's like an arms ride. So you do like a hit kind of thing where it's high, low intensity, and then they stop. And you're just sitting on the bike and you do some arm stuff. And then, the music's still going, and then they go back to the ride and then back to the arms. So it's all built in, sitting on the bike the entire time. But you can build these things called stacks. And so you drag like a 5-minute stretch warm up, and then you drag like a 30-minute ride, and then a 10-minute core routine and a 20-minute body weight lift. And then, you have to get off the bike, go to the mat for parts of that. But that's your 1 hour workout or whatever. So I'm kind of gearing up for a full 1 hour stack in the next week or two. I'm admittedly taking it very slow. I'm kind of injury prone and not in a rush.
Oh, it's boomer problems.
Yeah, seriously.
I was going to say though, it's I don't ever leave the house either. I'm just a hermit. I sit here at my computer and play video games. I post chart updates and do research for our Discord channel. And I go to the gym. Going to the gym is really like my way that I leave the house. And interestingly enough, I started going 3 weeks ago. I was like, I've got pretty much 2 months to get in really good shape for Miami. And in 2 months, like if you work your butt off and not bullshit ass training, like if you really push yourself to the limit, you can see really significant body changes in that period of time. But about 1 week after I started, my foray back into the gym, I got the new car. And that's my only chance that I get to drive it. So it's been a really good motivator in that, even if I'm not feeling going to the gym today, I'm like, hey, this is my shot to drive my car today. I want to go out and drive it, which by the way, it's got 3,600 miles on it. So I actually had a service indicator. These new cars will have a little screen. It pops up and it's like, hey, you need to go service your shit. And I was like, what the fuck? So I called the Mercedes dealership and I was like, hey, my car's got like 3,000 miles on it. It's telling me I need to come in for service in like 7 days or whatever. I was like, what's the deal with that? And they were like, oh, well, it's, either every 10,000 miles or, either that or a certain period of time has elapsed. So it turns out that a year has elapsed since the last service. And I asked them, well, what are you going to do? Well, we're going to replace the cabin air filter. We're going to change your oil. We're going to flush your brake lines. We're going to do all that, just standard maintenance.
Fluids. Yeah.
Well, how much is that going to cost? $495. I was like, what the fuck? Like, that is insane. Like, so I actually called the dealership. I'm trying to see if they have any service plans, that I can get, to see if it would make it.
That's one thing you have to factor in with high-end cars. And even the one I got now, I got to put in premium fuel. So my cost to fill up just went from like $40 Canadian to like 92.
Oh my
God. And that's just one thing. And then your insurance creeps up a bit. Then your oil changes are going to be a little more. And Mercedes, actually, the reason I stayed away, although I love a nice black Mercedes, that's why I'm so like about your car, because it's probably the one I would go get if I didn't have a kid coming, if I could just whatever fucking car I want, like that's probably right there. But it's those added fees you got to factor into.
Oh, they're insane.
10, 20K a year just on more expensive.
I will say, so the car it's got a 4-year, 50,000 mile warranty on it. And I'm already through 2 years of that warranty. So my plan for that car, I've got the Model S Plaid Plus, which has been delayed to sometime in 2022 on pre-order. I paid the $1,000 or whatever, probably a scam, but I've got it on pre-order. I still really am interested in getting an EV. I've got 2 years of warranty left on this bad boy. The aim here is to get rid of this fucking car before that warranty expires, because I can't imagine paying anything in regards to, hey, this is now fucked up on this, high-end Mercedes with all these moving parts. Now you're going to have to come out of pocket $10,000 to fix it. Like, I'm not about that fucking life at all.
No, it's expensive. And the electric cars, yeah, I've heard that with Tesla. They have like 18 moving parts in the engine, or 18 parts total.
They're supposed, okay. On one hand, I've heard the build quality is really bad, and people complain about panel fitment, and this and that. And then two, when you look at the entertainment suite and all the, it is kind of gimmicky. I am a nerd though. I do appreciate that. In terms of just straight up durability, the cars are supposed to be relatively maintenance free. My wife was actually telling me yesterday that the new Teslas will actually detect and determine when things are needed, and the car itself will go and order those things that are needed. If you have that enabled, they'll just show up. Yeah, how
that's sick.
Nuts is that?
Yeah, smart car, like on top of a smart car.
Yeah,
that's sick. I'm actually gearing up for a tune-up, level 1 tune. I wanted to do some mods. My little brother's like, car geek, and he was talking about, oh, you should mod this, mod that.
A4?
What's that?
Do you have an A4?
What's that?
Your Audi? Oh,
no.
You said it's a Q5?
SQ5, yeah.
So what kind of engine is it? The 3-liter?
Oh, don't ask me that shit, man. I'm not a car guy. My brother's like, dude, you can't have a car like that and not know like 3 basic questions. Well, I have not figured them out yet.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Do you know if it's turbo or supercharged?
It's double turbo, twin turbo.
Okay, so it's the twin turbo. You'll really enjoy the tune on that. For any kind of turbocharged car, or any car with force induction, even that level 1 tune, which by the if you do have any warranty left, it is going to void it. But this is the car I have right now is the first car that I'm not going to tune, just because I'm too scared. But I've tuned every car I've ever had in the past, and any kind of car I've had with forced induction with a tune. I mean, you get maybe 100, 150 horsepower out of that. It literally totally changes how the car drives, how it feels.
What's that called?
What's what called?
Ooh, the thing you're telling me to get. I want to write it down.
Oh, just you said you were going to get the stage 1 tune.
Yeah, like stage 1, like electronic tune, because basically it's a lease, right? I actually just talked my roommate's buddies with the guy who sold it to me. So I was like, hey, Rob. Yesterday, I was just like, are you still gonna pay me full amount for my lease, like when I return it, if I do this? He's like, yeah, like we won't even notice that. So I'm trying to pick mods that like I can still return it.
I will say this, one other thing that you'll really enjoy, and as much as I love like a great exhaust note, one of the biggest complaints I had about my Audi, because I had done so much work on it, was how fucking loud the thing was. My wife said she could hear me coming from 2 blocks away, and at a certain point in my life, I loved it. But it turned into something that I really hated about the car, because I wanted a car that if I wanted to drive in a reserve fashion, I wanted it to be quiet, and comfortable and upscale. And it just wasn't that. So I wouldn't recommend getting exhaust or anything like that, especially at your grand old age. But one thing you will really enjoy that is relatively cheap is a really, really nice cold air intake system. And people talk about 10 horsepower, this and that. The actual performance from getting any kind of cold air intake or ram intake or anything like that is very small, but the thing that sells it is just the sound. I still remember I had one of my favorite cars ever, a Volkswagen GLI, about 5 years ago. It had the 2.0 T engine. I had it stage 1 tuned. It had the intake, no exhaust. But when you put your foot on the pedal with that intake, when those turbos spool up, your car sounds like a whistle. Like it sounds like a diesel truck. Like you can hear you can hear that turbo, and like even more, you can hear the blow off too, which just sounds badass. After that turbo is spooled up. Yeah, absolutely fucking amazing.
I'm starting to get it. Before this, I think I owned like a Chevy Cobalt 2006, like shitty old cars. I was a teacher. I didn't have the money for like buying nice things, but now that I have reasonably nice car, like I get it. I sit there and I just put it on like dynamic mode with the sport, whatever, and it's like, and I'm just like, holy fuck, you just feel like you're sitting on something special. And I just looked it up. It's 350 horsepower ish with like 3-liter engine. So that's what I got.
As an Audi, I would definitely recommend APR tunes. Those are the tunes that I've always gone with.
Really that's like the stage 1, like electronic tune, right? So we're talking
about? I mean, stage 1, all they're going to do is pretty much get in there, remap the ECU. It's going to have different fuel maps and, stuff like that.
I looked that up. I don't know what it costs, but I'm going to do it because
it's funny. Just as you said you drove a piece of shit, before you had this car. Before I had my GLI, what actually got me into Volkswagen and Audis for a while is I owned a Jetta before that. It had a 2.5 liter, and I was super poor, so I was doing mega poor man mods. I built my own CAI cold air intake from AutoZone parts and shit like that. I had actually had the muffler removed, so it was ridiculously effing loud. And the funniest thing is that car had a sunroof. Well, the sunroof stopped working. We're talking about a car that's maybe worth $4,000 here. It was like a 2008, 2007 model. And I still remember when the sunroof stopped working, it actually got stuck open. I had to disassemble the sunroof. I had to move it back into place. And then I went to Home Depot and I got black caulk, and I applied the black caulk around the edges of the sunroof it would never open again, but it actually, sealed the sunroof. I smoothed it in. So, to a bystander, they wouldn't look at my car and see anything, but I was super proud of that car. I'd sanded the tails and blacked them out, and, I'd put a better grill on it and, all that kind of stuff, which was really funny. But,
yeah. Well, you sound like much more of a car guy. I'm admittedly like new to the club. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna get a nice car. I wanted the SQ8 RSQ8, but that thing like has the Lambo engine. That's like a
such
supercar.
monster.
It's a monster, but I just, it was like 170K, and I was just like, I still rent a house. Like I can't, one thing
you can't
can't put the cart before the horse. So that's my goal. If there was another goal to have maybe in the next cycle, because I got a 4-year lease now, so I'm locked in.
I will warn you, once you start doing things, it's definitely something that's kind of an addiction. I think you'll find yourself, wanting more, especially after. I mean,
it's already happened.
Sure.
I got my rings, painted black one day, took them in, got them painted black. Now I want black rims, like now I want the tunes. And by the time this is done, it won't be worth as much. And I'll have to pay extra to return it as a lease. Cause weirdly, if you mod things, it actually gets, loses value.
And I actually just ran into that problem, when I was trading in my Audi. I thought it would be worth more, but they were actually really hesitant to accept it because they were worried about it passing emissions. So,
and apparently people, like kind of understandably, they don't want to go buy a car that's been modded because then you don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, trust it. Any kind of modded car, like that somebody's probably ragged that bitch out too.
Yeah, that too. Now somebody pointed out very correctly that this just became a car show, and that's probably the top. So careful, guys. This week, whatever you do trading. I've got some really nice car mentions here. Obviously, a lot of car guys in the chat because they're dropping in names like Cayman GTR and all this stuff. I know our head of marketing just picked up a nice AMG Mercedes as well. So, it is that time. Maybe the trading related part, we can tie this in as we wrap up here, is that when you are up, when you are doing well, when you've worked your ass off and had a positive result, you should treat yourself, I think, pay yourself a little bit. Buy something. This is what I always do, or always do. The last 2 times I've had a good run is I buy something that I know will be around through all markets. So at the start of 2018, that was a new iMac Pro, which at the time was like $6,000. Like it was a nice computer. It's the one I'm on right now. I'm actually replacing it this cycle. So, but I have that computer all the way through the bear market. I was sitting there like, well, at least I got my computer, right? So you can pay yourself with some, buy some things. And then it's like, okay, worst case, market keeps going up. You look back, I always tease Joel Birch. He talked about getting a Range Rover or Land Rover back in 2017. And he's like, yeah, I paid $700,000 for that because he bought it with a Bitcoin or whatever.
How about this? And this will be the final thing that I say, before we conclude here. I've got an absolute monster PC, sitting to my right. I've built a lot of computers, really enjoy it. But I bought these PC parts on Newegg with about 2 Bitcoin at $3,600 Bitcoin.
Ooh, yeah.
So this $7,000 computer is now a $100,000 computer, and nothing depreciates more than hardware. So that's pain.
Yeah, there's your win, right? And same with cars, right? It's not like alpha necessarily, like this is how you grow your stack. But what are we? What am I here for? If I'm not going to spend a little along the way, I'm all for saving. I stashed some cash too, but I bought the car. I was like, fuck it. Like the other thing is like, what if I just die this summer? Like, God, that's dark, but like. You don't know that you're not going to choke on a chicken bone at dinner tomorrow night. I don't want to sit, my whole life with a 5 and a 10-year and a 20-year goal like that classic. Like in 30 years I can retire and life will be good. It's like, bro, I want to live a little right now. And the market's giving me an opportunity to do that, despite trying to take everything away on Saturday night last weekend. So
for sure, but hey, we're still here.
We're still here, and if I get liquidated, I'm gonna go for a ride in my car. Probably
right. But at least you'll have your car.
Yeah, I'll have the car. So it's all good, guys. Hey, I appreciate y'all tuning in today. We are sorry that we couldn't have Rob and Dan on the stream. No one is sorrier than I, the Canadian. Always sorry up here. And we should have them back next week. They're stuck in traffic in LA, maybe even watching now. They're back at the hotel.
Real quick, though, before we do leave, if you guys would hit that like button and please subscribe to Hxro Labs on YouTube, we would really appreciate that. It helps us out a lot.
Yeah, and if you haven't yet, transition to the Discord, the Hxro Labs Discord, because we are going to close the trading pit on Telegram sooner rather than later. And I actually was thinking about today, we should just mute it and have a message there instead of totally deleting it. But we'll talk about that after. But anyways, have a wonderful day, guys. Trade from strength, all that stuff. Manage the goddamn risk. And let's see if we can hold on to this range on Bitcoin for the next few weeks. Till next time, always play from a position of strength. Take care.